A very warm welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters Chiamaka Ohawuchi. This outgoing week was a very interesting and fulfilling one for us. Why? Because we had the opportunity to see that, yes, indeed, there is renewed hope for Nigeria, and this is coming from no better angle than our children. The Federal Ministry of Education has partnered with the Federal Inland Revenue Service to hold an inter-school debate competition for secondary school students in Lagos State. And topic of discussion was taxation, and matters around tax and taxation. And our crew was on ground to cover the two-day event, which held on the premises of Queen's College, Yaba, Lagos. At the end of the two-day event, Federal Government College in Janiki, Lagos, came first, followed by Agidingbi Senior Grammar School, Ikeja, Lagos, with King's College, Lagos, coming a proud third-place winner.
Third position goes to King's College, Lagos. Second position goes to Agidingbi Senior Grammar School, Ikeja, Lagos. And the first position goes to Federal Government College in Janiki.
We also want to share with you some of the fireworks that came from the direction of the debaters.
To set the ball rolling, for government, taxes are a major policy instrument used for shaping and reshaping the economic destinies of their countries, because the government has seen that tax is a major tool for economic development. The government needs to expand its tax net in order to incorporate more citizens who hitherto are not paying their taxes, especially those small and medium-scale enterprises. If the government are able to do this, they'll be able to capture more people to pay their taxes, and it will help for the economic development.
Digitalization of tax administration in our economy would lead to an increase in revenue generation in Nigeria. Let's take a look at states like Kaduna, Rivers, and Lagos State. The Kaduna State internally generated revenue skyrocketed from 11.5 billion naira in 2015 to 55.77 billion naira in 2020. Shouldn't you wonder, how does digitalization positively boost our revenue generation?
Tax, considered by many as a necessity for national development, neglecting the fact that there are other ways of generating funds. There are other ways of generating money for the nation. Firstly, let's try to understand what tax is. Tax is a compulsory levy imposed by the government on the nation, imposed by the government on the working class citizens to generate funds for public services. Of course, I agree with my opponents, with my co-debater, that tax generates funds, but it's not a necessity for national development. The first point I have is that there are alternative funding sources. In Nigeria, for example, we have so many natural and human resources, considering the fact that, according to Wikipedia, Nigeria has a population of about 200 million people. Nigeria has so many resources: petroleum, oil, gold, diamond, tin, indium, cadmium, silver.
Catch them young, they say. The story of this inter-school debate competition will come to you as part of our holiday special at the end of the year. Watch out for it.
I'm a very busy man. My business involves a lot of traveling, and I interface with lots and lots of people and organizations. Tax compliance used to be a big drag on my business. It was time-consuming and very costly. But now, no more. Introducing the FIRS Tax Pro Max, the truly fully end-to-end tax administration solution for companies' income tax, value-added tax, petroleum profits tax, and all other tax types. For fast, efficient, and convenient end-to-end tax experience, log on to www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. Tax Promax has turned things around for me. It is fast, user-friendly, and cost-effective. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC.
Welcome once again. Last episode, we shared with you excerpts from the policy dialogue on the current fiscal and monetary reform in Nigeria, Walking the Talk, organized by the Center for Business, Law and Policy, University of Lagos, at which Mr. Oyedele, chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, was a guest speaker. and we did promise to serve you fuller details of what transpired at that event in a subsequent episode. So here we are. Highlight of Mr. Oyedele outing at the policy dialogue was the 16th summary of the quick wins report of his committee presented to President Tinubu on the 24th of October 2023. Professor Abiola Sani, Professor of Commercial Law, was the anchor of the policy dialogue.
This is a very important national discourse, intentionally, deliberately put together in order to add value to the committee set up by the President to redesign the fiscal policy of Nigeria. We consider this as a very important assignment, and because this is the academia where we incubate ideas, the solution to our problems are in the minds of many people in this gathering today, because that is what institutions like this are set up for.
The whole idea is that as a center, we want to develop and deepen research into business law and policy for the purposes of facilitating economic growth in this country. We want to bridge the gap between academia and the town.
Professor Ayodele Asenowa is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services, University of Lagos.
About 10 days ago, I think less than 2 weeks ago, I bumped into the call for memoranda by the Tax and Fiscal Policy Reform Committee of the federal government. And it dawned on me that within academia, we make a lot of comments on the sidelines about governmental policies. But all too often, our voices are not heard in a way that is deliberate, all well put together. But please, the idea is not to bemoan. The idea is not to articulate the problems. The idea is, even if we highlight problems, let's not waste our time repeating what every other person has said. Let's spend more time being constructive, being able to say, this is a superior policy direction. This is a better policy direction. And I wish us fruitful deliberations.
Thereafter, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, presented a paper on the theme of the event, which was followed by a discussion by a panel of discussants.
Many people don't pay tax. Please don't overtax those already paying. There are those who are not paying. That's another issue. There are those who are too rich, who are not paying their fair share of taxes. Focus on those areas. They are not paying their fair share. There are many people who are in the informal sector, who are not paying their fair share. Leave people like us, who are already paying, and they focus on those ones. Deploy technology in the collection. It will help a lot.
International comparisons about tax rates and tax revenues may conceal more than they reveal. Even if the Nigerian government taxed, if the income tax rate was 50%, you won't get 50% of GDP in Nigeria, because the income base itself in Nigeria is very poor. Lowest paid government employees receive 30,000 naira a month. In today's exchange rate, that's $1 a day. Even if you tax that at 50%, Nigeria's tax revenue will still be what? Still be a pittance. So before you compare tax rates and tax revenue, compare the extent to which the government is making work pay. Many of the countries around the world use that slogan. You can Google it. Making work pay. It's an initiative that is pursued across Latin America, Europe, everywhere. to ensure that even your domestic worker, the work that they do, it does what? It pays them. The people cleaning rail stations, etc., that the work that they do does what? Pays them. And many of them, before they worry about making work pay, they have unemployment benefits. They have disability. Are we together? That the employed person here in this country can't get what the disabled will get, what the unemployed will get, much less what the employed will get. Are we together? So please, if the committee can help us along that path. A lot of skilled workers need for their skills to be recognized and protected and rewarded. That's why you find many artisans or many people who are sent for vocational skills end up riding Okada. They leave whatever it is they have been trained to do and they ride Okada or drive keke napep.
Another point here is the issue of cross taxation. You withdraw some taxes and then you try to substitute them with another taxes. If you are withdrawing some taxes which the poor were actually paying, you don't replace that also with some other taxes which the poor will also pay. Maybe this was income tax, you remove it, and then you increase consumption tax. The same poor person you are trying to please by reducing the tax burden on income now, we have to pay more on consumption. So we have to look at issues, things that affect the poor more, and then try to see how we can exempt them from taxes also.
Let me go down to some specific recommendations. Let's see how much I'm able to cover in this. The first one, just arising from this, is 100% tax on luxury goods. Number two, focus more on indirect taxation. Thirdly, eliminate multiple taxes and levies. Now, particularly the subnationals. Now, I understand that your assignment is given by the federal government. I don't know of on the physical environment we are. I don't know whether your assignment and your committee recommendations is going to be binding to the subnationals. Because if you look at this multiplicity of taxes that manufacturers face, you will observe that substantial numbers of them are by states and local governments. Most of the taxation by federal government are somehow relatively well aligned, and they are not as many as these local, these subnationals. So that is one area. So if you finish this work and we are not able to implement it at the state and local government level, you might find out that we have just wasted a lot of time, in discussing this and this assignment.
Following the intervention of the discussants, Chairman of the committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, came back on stage to give highlight of the quick wins report, which we consider as a high point of the policy dialogue. We continue from where we stopped last episode.
So we also have a recommendation to increase personal income tax relief. So currently 200,000 naira is personal income tax relief. We have recommended 400,000 naira. And this is just for a start because it's quick win. I told you we are rewriting the law, so as we speak now, we are rewriting the income tax laws. So in the meantime, we're saying we can provide some relief. We also said there should be tax break for the private sector. So you see government, federal government awarded 35,000, they call it wage award for civil servants for 6 months. So the question is, all Nigerians are making sacrifices with fuel subsidy. Why is the public servant benefiting and the rest of us are not benefiting? So we said, let's find something for people in the private sector. We said, Nigerians are asked to pay taxes and some levies in foreign currency in Nigeria. Some of these things are legislated, and that doesn't help us because the Zoom that you're using for this program now was not developed in Nigeria. So I'm very sure Unilag paid in dollars. Even if you paid Naira, the bank converted it to dollars to pay Zoom. The law says, since you pay $2,000 for this Zoom subscription, you must pay VAT and the withholding tax also in dollars. You know what you do? You go back to the foreign exchange market, you start bidding for dollar in Nigeria that is already in Nigeria to go and pay the government of Nigeria. And that amount was not insignificant. The estimate we got was about $3.5 billion every year. It's all this confusion of paying things in dollars inside Nigeria. We're saying let's stop that, and let's stop it quickly. So it's one of our recommendations. We actually have drafted an emergency economic intervention bill as we speak that should go to the National Assembly very soon, because these issues require that we have legislative intervention as well. We said, let's remove the impediment to global employment opportunities. Nigerians who sit in Nigeria and don't want to leave their country should not be stopped from finding jobs internationally, sitting here in Unilag, sitting somewhere in Ekiti, in Zamfara, in Kogi, in Enugu, and should be able to work for a multinational doing it online. As of today, multinationals who want to employ Nigerians in Nigeria are unable to do so because we have legal and tax impediments that we put on their ways. When they finish asking you questions, they don't come back. We're saying let's remove those impediments, and we are starting now. We're also looking at export and import. Why is it that to bring goods from China to Apapa is less expensive than from Apapa to Abeokuta? IATA said that the two most expensive airports in the world are Lagos and Abuja because of levies and taxes. Is that the title you want to hold? The answer is no. It turns out those multiple levies are all over the place. We have the suspension of VAT on diesel, as well as waiver of taxes on CNG and CNG conversion, as well as renewable energy items, for obvious reasons. Another one is a review of the tariff on the 43 items. The whole objective is not only to protect the local manufacturers, we also want to protect the Nigerian consumers so they are not exploited either by local producers or people importing products into Nigeria. We are reforming the withholding tax system. It's one of our quick win recommendations. Before I left practice as a tax practitioner, this was the most complex area of tax compliance in Nigeria. Even when you want to do the right thing, this is so confusing. They will tell you ordinary cost of business, over-the-counter transaction. The rate is different if the person is individual versus if they're a company. It's already difficult to pay tax. Why should I stress my brain figuring out how much I need to pay? We said government should facilitate the use of mobile phone for conditional cash transfer. Don't send me rice, because when you send rice, one bag of rice that is meant for one family will end up with quarter of a bag for a whole village, because everybody is taking their own along the line, including the village head. On one hand, the rice did not get to the destination it was meant to get to in peace. The one that got there, what if I don't want to eat rice? Maybe it's yam I want, maybe it's gari. Why don't we use mobile phone today if you don't have bank account? Credit your mobile phone as food stamp. You take that phone to the person selling gari or rice or yam, *313 200 naira hash. The person gets the credit, they give you the yam. We can audit that 100%. The money meant for the poor we get there. That's also one of our recommendations. We said we should suspend multiple taxes. We want to stop multiple taxes, but we also know that you can't do it in 60 days. In the meantime, we're discussing with the governors to say, please suspend them. And we've identified top 5 taxes that create the most problem for our economy. One of it is haulage tax. A guy was interviewed 3 days ago, a transporter. One truck, he puts items on them from state A. He's going to state B. The guy says he pays average of 450,000 naira before he gets to his destination. Every roadblock, levy, taxes, extortion, 450,000. And then we are surprised that food inflation in urban center is 300 basis points more than the food inflation in the village. It's this extortion. It's even painful that you are paying it. It's twice as painful that it's not getting to government. So there's no chance, zero possibility of benefit to the people by way of fiscal exchange because it's not going to the government. We're saying let's stop that. We also recommended that the foreign exchange market should be sanitized. While we cannot dictate to the central bank, we have a list of a package of fiscal interventions to help stabilize the exchange. By the way, if you go to the Foreign Exchange Acts, it gives a lot of powers to the finance minister, working with the central bank in regulating and sanitizing the foreign exchange market. So we have those interventions from the fiscal side, including the plan to impose an excise tax that takes away the difference between the exchange rate in the official market and the parallel market, so that everybody goes to the official market where there's sanity. Then we said government should implement forward contract rather than the NNPC trying to decide whether there's subsidy or there's no subsidy in a way that nobody can truly explain. We're saying, why don't we clean up that whole process? Our proceeds from selling crude oil, domestic crude allocation, give all of that, give it to the central bank. Let central bank sign contract with people importing PMS. So that I'll say, I'm selling my dollar to you at 700 naira, so that you can bring PMS and not increase the pump price. Because we need to be mindful that while doing these reforms, our people must stay alive so they can see the benefit of the reforms, not to die before the reforms have been implemented. We said that modified tax promas, that's the FRS system for paying taxes. Before our recommendation, if the tax system say you are owing 10 million, and you think you are owing 9.99 million, you cannot pay 9.99. The system will reject your payment and say you must pay the amount it says is due. And every day you refuse to pay is compounding your interest. No country does that. Finally, government should grant waivers of penalty and interest on those outstanding tax liability, so people can pay the amount they believe is truly due as the principal liability, so that the people can breathe. So those are the quick run-through of the recommendations.
Mr. Oyedele concluded with these clarifications.
The global comparison, yes, my brother is right, Dr. Teriba. So we don't just compare, South Africa and Nigeria, but the reality is that you cannot live as an island. You must still compare, but you compare with care. That's the way we put it, compare with care. Don't lose sight of the context. In South Africa, their unemployment rate before we recalculated our own was about 33, was comparable. I think that if you take the top 60 million Nigerians in terms of wealth and income, they are not poorer than the average South African, right? So their VAT rate is higher than our own, their income tax rate is higher than our own. Ours is somewhere around half to two-thirds of their rate. Why are we not collecting half their tax revenue? So in a way, there's still a lot that we are not doing, particularly at that top 1% that they are doing better than us. I think the last one is the recommendation, the one about 100% tax on luxury goods. And we've received this recommendation from a number of sources, but data is not supporting it. What many people haven't realized is that if indeed we decide to tax luxury today, almost everybody in this room will pay that tax. You know why? Your mobile phones will be luxury. By Nigerian standard, your mobile phone will be a luxury, especially if it's a smartphone, right? So by the time we are done, you just piss people off and you won't raise revenue. You know what's important? That billionaire who is making billions every year, let them just even pay the 24% marginal personal income tax rate. Let's see what we do with that. Many of them today are paying nothing. What's the correlation between your wealth and the taxes you have paid? Those are the things we want to fix. It's an enormous task But I'm so pleased to remember every time that we have everything that we need to make this happen. And with God on our side, we shall succeed. Thank you very much.
Wow! We can confirm that the audience listened with rapt attention, and we are sure you did too. We can only hope that in the next few months, the committee has a one-year mandate. The Nigerian tax system will begin to wear a new look, where taxpayers will voluntarily pay, and the tax collector and the taxpayer will become true friends, while the revenue profile of the country will become strong and fit to carry the weight that it should carry. Thank you for watching. Let's roll again next week. Same station, same day of the week, and same time of the day. Bye for now.